Always up for a great kitchen party, Donna went on to create Cookworks Cooking Studio, which parlayed into a popular Food Network show called The Cookworks with Donna Dooher, watched by foodie fans around the world discovering their love of food in their own kitchens. Donna introduced the phenomena of brunch to the sleepy town of Toronto when Sundays were still just a day of rest, and she went on to publish her award-winning cookbook, Out to Brunch. She joined forces with the country's top editors and designers and publishers to bring Wish magazine to Canadian readers and collaborated on the bestseller Wish Market to Table cookbook. Donna's latest venture, Mildred's Temple Kitchen in the heart of Toronto's Liberty Village, reflects her commitment for a return to the table and her passion for locally sourced seasonal ingredients, simply and sumptuously prepared. Donna is actively involved in Canada's hospitality community and a self-proclaimed fork hugger, dedicated to supporting Ontario farmers and local agriculture. Donna served as the national chair of Taste Canada, the chair of the board of directors and CEO of Restaurants Canada, co-chair of the Yes Chef fundraising campaign at George Brown College, and has worked extensively with Brand Canada to promote Canadian hospitality around the globe. Donna's approach to cooking and life in general, cook with love and reckless abandon. We are so pleased to have Donna join us virtually to lead us through a cooking demo and speak to her experience in the hospitality industry. Donna, over to you.
Thank you, Julie, and welcome everyone. Good morning. We couldn't think of a better way to start the week and start classes than with a big stack of pancakes. Mildred Pierce and Mildred's Temple Kitchen are renowned for their pancakes. We've been making them for, I think it's 30 years now. Today we're just quickly going to take you through this delicious, simple recipe. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how my journey at Algonquin College led me to much further than going into a restaurant kitchen and cooking. It opened so many doors for me. And one of those doors is branded products that we have a whole line of now, one of them being pancake mix. So I'm cheating a little bit today, and I'm going to use our pancake mix. But if you did have a copy of our Out to Brunch cookbook, the recipe is in there. So I'm just going to show you a few little tips along the way. This is always a great tip if you are going into baking or pastry and you're going to be cooking a lot with flour. I always use my whisk to lighten up the flour and make sure any other ingredients, dry ingredients that are in there are lightened up and well mixed. So that's my first task with the whisk. And then we move on to our dry ingredients. So in this recipe, we're using 2 cups of buttermilk and 3 eggs. I'm getting used to the position of the Zoom, and 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. So we're going to quickly mix these together. Again, I'm going to use the whisk, add the eggs in. Now, we're not looking to aerate these. We're just looking to break up the yolks and incorporate some of the whites. We're not making a souffle today. We're just making pancakes, although they do puff up like souffles. It's quite remarkable. And then we're going to add a little bit of melted butter, about 1/3 of a cup. It doesn't have to be clarified butter, just melted, and about room temperature because you don't want it to cook your eggs. Now, Julie and I were talking about pancakes last week, and she was asking me for a few of the tips and tricks. And this one I think is probably the most important, and that's mixing the wet into the dry. So it always goes wet to dry. That's the general rule of thumb. I'm going to pour it all in at once. Use your spatula. One of my instructors at Algonquin years ago said your best friend in the kitchen was your spatula. Nothing goes to waste. And to this day, I tell this to my team in the kitchen as well. Our food is precious, it's expensive, and we don't want to waste. So the next thing you're going to do is mix these ingredients together and, you know, get a little rough in there. But you want lumps. Lumps are good in pancakes. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. Take it from me. I've made thousands of pancakes over the years, and I can tell you your lumps are good. I don't want to overmix this batter either. And I think this is about as far as I'm going to take it. It's already starting to activate. I can see all of the leavenings that are in there being activated by the buttermilk. So it's ready to go. And now I'm going to start to cook the batter. So I'm going to move this over just a tad. The other thing that's really critical now, this is this is me cooking on Zoom. The pan that you're going to use really needs to be a heavy, solid pan. I'm using cast iron. It's one of my favorite types of pan for cooking on. And you want to have a nice even heat that's well distributed. And that's why the quality of the pan is so important. That was another thing when I was going to culinary school, was I had the opportunity to use high quality equipment that we would be using out in the workforce, and also how to look after that equipment, because these things they're expensive. And when they're in good shape, they will always give you a great result. So I'm going to let the pan warm up a little bit. And of course, people always want to know, well, how hot should the pan be? And I like to sprinkle a little bit of water on it and give it a go. Also use a scoop. Here we go. See that? This is about a 3-ounce scoop. You want to be really generous with these pancakes. You can see how thick that batter is. And I give the scoop a little rinse in the water every time, so it's a nice clean drop. You can see some of those lumpy bits in the pancake batter. That's, as I mentioned earlier, is a good sign. And pancakes are on the grill. So on an average Sunday brunch at Mildred's Temple Kitchen, we estimate we cook somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 pancakes throughout the shift. That's a lot of pancakes. And we have a huge surface out in our open kitchen. I'm in the back prep kitchen now. And we probably have down on the grill at any given time 150 to possibly 200 pancakes on the grill. So the person who's cooking those pancakes has a big responsibility. Make sure they get in there and flip them at the right time. Now, I can tell that my pan's got a little hot because I'm too busy talking, but now we're starting to see these bubbles that are developing on the pancake, and we think it might be time to give them a flip. Making pancakes is like making anything else in the kitchen. You've got to do it over and over and over again. You practice, you'll get better at it. That includes myself. If I've been off the pancake grill for a while, it takes me a while to get back. And Julie, you and I were also talking about the first pancake is usually the kids' pancake, or someone who's not in your good favor, perhaps. I always say the last pancake, it's like the last omelet, is the chef's omelet, because it's always perfect. So I'm going to give these a flip. And you can see they have started to get nice and brown. Got to flip them fast. And as I flip them, they're actually continuing to cook. And you're going to see that they're rising up. I'm not sure how well we can see it on Zoom, but that's what they do. So you've got to keep your pan at a moderate heat. And I think that is a very important tip when you're making your pancakes. Get the temperature right. So we don't have time to watch them cook right through. So I made some ahead of time, and I'm going to show you the final result, which I have right over here. And today, I made an extra high stack, as you can see. That's 4 pancakes. And it's only because it's the first day back at school, and I think everybody needs their fix of pancakes. So we use a maple syrup from Lanark County, which comes just outside of Ottawa. And we buy, we probably buy, 1,000 gallons of maple syrup. every couple of months. We want to put a big whack of fresh whipped cream. You could put a little bit of lemon zest into your cream to give it a little extra boost of flavor. We're all about layering flavors. And then we top it up with our wild blueberry compote. This is another product that we sell that comes preserved, and we preserve it in jars. And we sell our maple syrup. And then we put we just can't stop, right? We've got to put a little icing sugar on it. And there you have it. Perfect stack of pancakes.
That looks delicious. That looks fantastic. Thank you, Donna. So for everyone, I think, are we ready to take questions? Are you up for a little bit of Q&A with our attendees? I did, and I am remiss, I did forget to mention to everyone that you do have a Q&A button on the bottom bar of the Zoom where you can post your questions. And I see that some of you have already thought about it and seen it. So we have a question here. Do you need to use buttermilk or can you use regular milk?
You're best to use buttermilk. And the reason why we use buttermilk is because it sours the, it has an acid in it that activates the baking powder and baking soda. So those are two dry ingredients that are in with the flour. And that is going to kickstart that activation. You don't have that acid just in a regular milk product. So that's why we use buttermilk.
Okay. So I don't see another question, but as you know, I had a few for you already, like the throwaway pancake, but I saw that when you placed the pancakes and you said we didn't have time to see them cook through, what would you estimate is the amount of time it takes for them to be cooked through? Is you can't do what I do, which is push them down to see if they're cooked through.
Oh, no, I do that.
Oh, you do? Oh, phew. So how long about does it take for us to be comfortable?
They take, you're going to start them on one side. It's almost like cooking a steak. You want to start them on one side probably for about 3 minutes, and then you flip them over, and not as long on the second side, on the second flip. The other thing is, if you wanted to put anything into the pancakes, sometimes we put fresh blueberries in. We do that just before we flip the pancakes over. So you could put chocolate or blueberries or bananas or whatever you like. And I encourage you to experiment. And then you finish cooking on the flip side.
Oh, you don't put them in the mix. You put them,
you put them on top. So I wouldn't add anything to the mix because, again, it's very scientific, this ratio of baking powder, baking soda, the acidity of the buttermilk. These activate the batter and get it to open up. When you start to introduce other ingredients, and perhaps ingredients that would leach some type of water or sugar, as fruit tends to do, then you're changing the ratio and you might lose some of that puff.
Ah, well, there you go. Now I learned something else I was doing wrong. This is fantastic.
How high this stack is.
That is beautiful. Now we're all hungry. I don't see any more questions, but I encourage attendees, if you're like me and you're finally learning, I won't tell you after how many years, how to properly make pancakes, put your questions in the Q&A. But we were talking before the webinar, and I asked a question, and Donna, just out of pure curiosity, we saw her put a little bit of butter, but if you paid attention to how many pancakes they're making on a regular basis, we did a quick estimate of how many pounds of butter you've used, or you usually use in a year making pancakes. And what did you come up with?
Well, in a year, we go through, what was the calculation? 400 pounds. Oh, gosh, I can't remember. 4,000 pounds. Yes.
4,000 pounds.
In 1 year. That's right. Yeah.
And so altogether, you estimate you've used how much butter?
Well, we've used tons of butter. I mean, we're beyond pounds now. For the time we've started, we're into the tonnage. Well, maybe 3 or 4 tons
Oh, incredible. And so when we're in our kitchen putting a little bit, then I suppose it's not comparable. We do have another question. What are your flavors to add to pancakes? Fruity, savory, herbal, otherwise? What would be, I suppose, your recommendations?
Well, I would recommend something like a berry, and a blueberry has a harder skin on it, so it holds up better in the process of cooking. If you put raspberry in, they're very fragile. They break up, and they may let off a lot of sugar and start to burn the pan when you flip the pancake over. But you could put whatever you like. I've seen people put gummy bears into pancakes. The sky's the limit. But also, a savory pancake is wonderful. You could switch out some of the flour for cornmeal, and you could make a much more savory pancake. You could put dry mustard into the mix or dry herbs. And we used to do a pancake similar to that, and we'd serve ratatouille on the top of it. It was delicious.
Ooh, yes, that would be a delicious lunch. There's another question. You mentioned using melted butter, but not to use clarified butter. What's the difference?
Well, a clarified butter is when you melt butter and you separate the fat from the whey or the milk water. So you get that gold, when you let it solidify, then you get that nice golden crust, and you've got a little bit of that white milk on the bottom. So that hard piece is your clarified butter. And, that's just pure butter. So in the process of making butter and churning it, you're going to get different results. Some pastry chefs need their butter before they actually use it in cooking because they want to extract some of the water out. Some butter has a higher water content than some other butters, and you want butter with lots of fat in it.
Perfect. I have a question. So I think in the past I've seen my grandmother, I think, put oil instead of butter. I suppose would it do the same? Is it something that we should avoid, or if you're stuck and you don't have butter?
I think if you're stuck and you don't have butter, oil would work too, Julie. It's the fat that you're looking for in the recipe. The thing we love about butter is the flavor that it imparts. It's so tasty.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, I don't see any more questions, and I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to add or tell us about.
Well, I just think it's very exciting for everyone who's coming back to their program today, or anybody who's starting a new program. I know these are challenging times for everyone, cooking on Zoom being one of them. But there are so many opportunities, particularly for people coming through the culinary program. The world is your oyster right now. And again, my goal when I started at Algonquin College was really just to get a job in a restaurant kitchen, which I did do, and I thoroughly enjoyed. And I did go on to, with my partner and my husband, Kevin, we've gone on to have some wonderful experiences in the restaurant business. But there's so much more to hospitality and cooking, and there are just a plethora of opportunities out there. And I encourage everyone to just keep your eyes wide open, because you'll find that perfect niche just for your skills.
Oh, thank you. So I have another question. So somebody wants to know how we can make a nice berry syrup for the pancakes.
A berry syrup?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the one we did, like the compote that we did?
Yeah. I'm getting curious too.
Yeah. Very simple. So we just take wild blueberries. Of course, we prefer fresh, but we do live in Canada. So frozen quite often gets used, and you can buy them at the supermarket. And then we just do a ratio of berries to sugar. And we do put a little bit of our maple syrup in there, because we also, not only do we use butter on everything, we use maple syrup on everything too. And you just let it cook down till you get the right viscosity of your compote. We call this a compote, not a jam. A jam would have a different consistency and add a lot more sugar. This is just much looser. So it's almost like a simple syrup in a way, but that's how we do the blueberry compote. So depending on the berries that you use, you might change your ratio of sugar to fruit.
Right. So to your point, with the raspberries being, you probably need to add a little more than you would with something as sweet as a peach or something.
Yeah, and again, raspberries have a lot of tiny little seeds in them, so
Yeah.
you might not like the consistency as much, so you might want to pass it through a sieve.
Okay.
Yeah, there are many. You know what? It's endless. The possibilities are endless.
Oh, I'm getting more and more hungry as we're talking. So I am curious and students are starting their journey in hospitality. What's it been like for your business under COVID? And what's your outlook right now? I mean, we have to address the conversation. I'm curious what your insights are at the moment.
Well, it's been challenging. There's no question about that. And we have had to embrace the P word, pivot, like everybody else. But I think we were well positioned because we have a fairly well established brand, which has been helpful for us. And we also have our products from our pantry, so we can put together gift baskets and kits and sell our books. We still do takeout from our hotline. What I'm discovering through all of this, though, is I think there is going to be a shift in the way we approach the business of restaurants. And I think there are opportunities there. I also think there's an opportunity to build a better business model for restaurants, as well as a better environment for people to work in restaurants as well. Because it's tough work. It's tough work, Julie.
Yes, it's right now, but I like what you said. I think there's a shift in the industry. There's other opportunities opening up. I love the idea of the gift baskets. I know for the holidays, none of us could shop, and we were looking to things like that to where can we find them, what can we do? So I like the positivity and to say I'm curious as to what's coming. I don't see any more questions, and so I don't mind giving you the gift of time, but I want to thank you for everything this morning. It was a very nice way to start the semester. I thought it was a very nice, appropriate topic for a morning, especially in the cold winter days. There's nothing more warm and fuzzy than a good pancake breakfast. So thank you very much for all of this. And on behalf of Algonquin College, thank you. I want to again wish all of our students that are just starting with us a great term. And I don't know if any of the panelists would like to add anything, but if not, then I say that's a wrap, and we can all go and practice making our own pancakes. Thank you so much, Donna.
Welcome. Have a great day.